Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, the first day of e-commerce day East Africa. My name is George, George Mbidhi. I work with Palladium in Kenya, and I will be your host for this first day. We are very glad that you have joined us for the first day of the 3-day event, which is designed to really inspire and empower professionals in the e-commerce industry. Whether you are looking to deepen your expertise, network with industry leaders, or learn from hands-on experiences, this event will really offer something for everyone. And today, 18th of November, is the very first day. We are going to have a series of presentations where you can gain valuable insights, and you get to hear from different people and business cases, with some experts who are going to be speaking to us. We are going to have the very first presentation, but before I can go to the first presentation now, let me give you just a good overview of the e-commerce day tour. E-commerce day has been the events have been taking place annually in Latin America and the Caribbean since 2007, and with the aim of promoting the development of the digital commerce and internet business industry at a regional and global level, and accelerating the incorporation of the online channel by companies and entrepreneurs who are key to the growth of the digital economy. And for the very first presentation, we are going to have it in the next 5 minutes. We're going to hear from one of the presenters from Vitex, who is Adriano Silva. Adriano Silva is the head of global sales at Vitex, and he's going to be talking to us about e-commerce return on investment, demystifying the ROI in the e-commerce. And at the end of the presentation, you will be able to understand the numbers behind the success. And so we're going to wait for Adriano, who will be on in the next 5 minutes. Thank you, and let's wait for Adriano. Over.
Hello, hello. Good to see you guys. Good to be here again. We are going to talk today about e-commerce, Roy. I'm in Kenya right now. The weather is amazing. I have been here for 5 times, so I'm very happy to be joining this event. I'm hopefully you enjoy the event. We are going to talk about some numbers. That's what we really enjoy. We are from Vitex, and we are here to leverage and to help you to develop Africa market through our e-commerce technology and our platform. So I will move with some slides, and you are there in YouTube or any social network. You can ask questions. We can try to be and do this interactive. Hopefully, I really like to always start with a phrase. So this is one of my favorite phrases. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I think that's what we are doing here. So congrats to e-commerce day, e-commerce institute, and to all the people who organized and helped to organize this event. I'm really proud to be here again. And tomorrow, who are going to be here presenting the event, I'm more than happy to meet you guys there. And until Wednesday, right? I just want to introduce very quickly. I'm from Brazil. 25 years ago, I worked for McKinsey, and Vitex by chance was starting there. It was one of my first clients when I was there. And we have a lot of similarities with Africa, right? Then I came all over the world, and this is a picture when I came to Kenya first time in 2005. And since there, I have been seeing the change in Kenya, and not only in Kenya, in the whole Africa. But I have a special friends and with Kenya community. I'm almost feel part of the tribes here. So people treat us very well when we are here. And obviously, I'm more than happy to meet people from the different countries here in Africa, North of Africa, and even South Africa. I'm based in Middle East right now, but I'm in charge of Africa, Middle East, Asia. And I want to get started. This is a slide that I presented back in 2017 here in Kenya by chance. And I was just comparing some of those trends that we were discussing with the local people here. They happened, right? It's funny. I was just digesting this yesterday. Trump wins. We were talking about this, I don't know, 7 years ago. Facebook could be destroyed by fake news, well, hopefully it not. But Meta, they had to rechange, let's say, and reinvent Facebook at all. Bitcoins, I think now it's a reality. We have been talking about the UK at that time. I don't want to call like a socialist, but yeah, the Brexit, everyone knows. And we talked about the third age in Europe, China war versus global trade, electric cars. So those are one of the trends we were discussing right here in Kenya back in 2017. And now I think we can see a lot of new trends. I would like to do a new global trends together with you guys here. Let's go straight to the point. I think when we see Africa in general, the opportunity everyone knows is huge. So we are talking about surpassing the mark of 500 million e-commerce users by 2025. This is really huge. And I think everyone is looking now at Africa, and I think it's the moment for change. And we really enjoy this part of the world. We can change the continent, we can change the countries as we did when we were starting back in Brazil 25 years ago almost. Vitex was founded back in 2000. So we know, and we are sure we can change the opportunities right now for everyone who are now in the following us, listening to us, or who will be tomorrow there. This is a big opportunity, not only for Africa, but for the world. Obviously, the main trends and the main drivers for this growth, we can talk about the urbanization, the population, the youth population. So Africa has everything to win in this market. And this number, as I have a friend who says, oh, there are different numbers in the industry. Yes, I just took the GDP of Africa. We are talking about 3.1 trillion nominal in 2023. And the e-commerce revenue, it depends on the source, but we are talking about more or less $50 billion e-commerce revenue generated according to different sources in average. So let's say we are talking about less than 2% real e-commerce penetration. So we lived this 10 years ago. In Latin America, we were talking about less than 2%, and now we are talking about 10%. So I think Africa is almost in the bridge to cross the 3%, and we are going to see an exponential growth for the next year. So that's why I think we are here, and I'm blessed and happy to have those kind of conversations. In terms of numbers, as I said, we are talking about $50 billion in 2024 e-commerce revenue from all the companies which are participating in the market, and we are talking about doubling this by 2029, $100 billion. It's a lot of revenue in the market, so we can discuss different situations, but the opportunity is there and will be for the next years. We are talking about a high growth, double-digit growth of 11%, 11.9 to be more precise. So the opportunity is here. I'm very excited to be sharing those numbers with you guys and go a little bit more in details when we see, for example, the population, the age demographic, internet, income level, urbanization. Obviously, not only here, everywhere, I think from China to Argentina to Brazil, we discussed about digital financial inclusion, and we are still discussing that. But we can see that Africa is a big continent, and we have different countries. In those different countries, they have different needs. So we need to see the necessity of each country, but not missing that it's a block that we can do. For example, if you talk about cross-border business, we can do in Africa, we have everything to do cross-border here, right? From the north to the south, and obviously you can do cross-border with other countries and regions. But the opportunities is right there. I want to share numbers of internet people, as I said before, financial inclusion. Many companies are entering the market right now, so the demographics are ready, right? And if we think about the projected population, different from other countries, because I don't know, but I heard Elon Musk saying this last week. Europe is in a different situation, right? They are old people and they don't want to have children anymore. In Africa, happy to see those numbers because we are still contributing with the population. The population is projected to grow, which is also reflected in internet users. We see in the middle of Africa, there is rooms for improvement, but the opportunity is there. Obviously, North Africa, we see some well-developed and more exponential growth. And also in the South Africa, the middle maybe should be worked a little bit more, right? But when we see Africa in general, everything is projected to grow. This is a report that I got recently showing what is going on, and many other things are happening now in the market. We can talk about mobile commerce. So mobile is the essence of anything. So people has access to their devices, to their mobile, and now it's much easier. Internet is another driver, and for sure it's growing, and all the governments are investing on this. Logistic, last mile. So obviously this is a challenge and an opportunity. As I said before, cross-border commerce. So many marketplaces are strengthening in Africa, and marketplaces from abroad are entering the market. So marketplace, not of doubt, is a big opportunity. And obviously in the payment fintech innovations, as we said, the financial inclusion is something very important, and everyone knows. So we need to work on these and the different payments models to enable the e-commerce to grow. And finally, we started to talk again about data-driven personalization, everything related to AI. For sure, it's another big opportunity for the market. I was listening for some experts saying that we could leverage AI also to develop all the four previous trends here. And I think in Africa, we can use this to develop the bottom of the pyramid. So good things and good drivers and very good innovations. Africa is ready to receive it in the ecosystem, to build this ecosystem together, right? I did this by myself because I don't know who is in the other side here. I want to share this tomorrow as well in the panel. Obviously, usually governments or companies, they take the top 10 countries in Africa. So we will go into Tanzania and we see highest GDP, South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, Morocco, Kenya for sure, Angola. But this is like what we call accelerated growth in short term. And I try to expand and say, don't forget about the other 10s. Obviously, we could keep extending, but those are merging from the 11 to the 20. And we are talking about Ghana, Congo, Uganda, Cameroon, Tunisia, Libya, Zimbabwe, Senegal, Sudan, Zambia. We can also get a lot of strategic growth in the long term. So what we can expect, because I always discuss this as potential issues. When we are growing in those top 10, we are going to see inflation. We are going to face supply demand issues, infrastructure, logistics, even labor availability, right? Because when you say, oh, we are facing a growth, where is the people available to enable this growth? So everything should be connected, or even the infrastructure to enable this growth. So I always say, yes, let's think about the top 10, but don't forget about the other strategic countries, which maybe they don't have the big number, but they are strategically, because those, let's say, big cities or big countries, they will grow. And when it started to become expensive, people will go around and looking for neighboring countries as the ones here in the bottom. So that's why I call it strategic growth in the long term, and we should think about the diversify investment and take in consideration short and long term in those countries. But again, those are issues that we are going to see, and I want to share very quickly some e-commerce trends that we bring from the world. And here we are seeing all the reports, and I think some of those may be new, some of others not new because they are already in the report, but this is our predictions as VTEX. So we are talking about live shopping. I'm going to go very quickly in detail: apps, marketplace, and omni-channel, assisted sales, pick and pack, and commerce architecture. So again, we go into the first, live shopping. Live shopping is a trend that is in China, for example. Almost 30% of the sales, e-commerce sales, go through live shopping. Influencers, experts sharing contents with users. And we can see many of those big marketplaces are using live shopping, is a streaming 30 minutes. You can even sell what you sell in 1 month or in 1 day during 30 minutes, 1 hour session. So I think everyone using leverage the social medias are using live shopping. And this is a big opportunity. Second is apps. So according to McKinsey, in many verticals like grocery, fashion, apps will account for 60% of the sales. So apps, native apps, is a very big opportunity. Again, apps, we can talk about native apps, or we can even leverage what we call PWA. And if you don't know, you can ask with us, VTEX, we can clarify. But apps is certainly a very good and important channel of sales and of conversion. Because when we think, for example, an indicator that we call abandoned cart. In computers, many people, they try to buy, 68% they abandon the cart. They are creating the cart and they don't buy. They don't go to the checkout. When you see the mobile apps, the abandoned cart is only 20%. So the conversion is much higher when you have a native app, because the experience is much better usually. So this is another big trend that we see, and a big opportunity. And again, we can discuss this. Obviously, as we said before, 45% of the sales currently coming from the mobile devices and 60% coming from apps. So this is a big opportunity for companies. The other trend that we see is marketplace, right? How I can connect to those big marketplaces, but how can I become a marketplace? So I will become the marketplace for the fashion industry, or for the grocery industry, or for any industry that we think marketplace. We can extend our catalog and do what we call drop shipping. We don't need to hold the inventory many times, and we can use sellers to sell as Amazon do, right? As Temu do, or any of those big marketplaces. So companies using leverage marketplace, they are winning the market. So this is another market model that we call, together with omnichannel. So omnichannel basically is how I connect the online world with the offline world, right? So if I want to buy online and pick up in the store, or if I'm in a physical store and I want to buy online, or if I want my products to be delivered, not at home, to be delivered at the grocery or in the pharmacy, right in the corner of my, close to my house, can I do it? Or in a smart locker. So omnichannel is when we connect the user. The experience online become the same in the offline, right? I always say, if you are not in the online world, you are losing money in the offline world, in the physical stores as well. So this gives availability, convenience to the users. That's what we are looking for today, right? As users, we want to pay in the way that we want. It may be cash, maybe points, maybe gift card, maybe credit cards, maybe with any crypto, whatever model. And the same in the delivery side. I want to have the flexibility of delivering or pick up my product in any place. So we go to what we call assisted sales. So the sales people from the past could not be the same salespeople from the present. The skills and competences change. So now salespeople who are in the sales floor, they are not only waiting for the customers to come. Now they can start to sell online, stay in the sales floor. So you have been seeing this, and we have enabled sales floor people assisting customers in the online or in the offline. So this will help a lot companies to increase their sales, as we call sales in the store, right? So you can have a device that can enable the salespeople to be connected with the online world as well. So that's why you call assisted sales. And finally, we call commerce-oriented architecture. When we go to any commerce project, the first thing that we ask when we are talking about going to the market, the best model to launch your product, to launch your project is, let's analyze, evaluate the architecture of your business. So this is very important. It's like when you are going to build a house or a building, you need the architecture to be there in order to connect the cables. Otherwise, we face those kind of things. We go there, our e-commerce platform is in the middle, and we have to connect all the other systems, right? Otherwise, we are just create what we call the Frankenstein, and we want to avoid that because it costs a lot for the companies. It costs money, it costs time, and we cannot wait for this. So that's why VTEX, we are what we call the composable and complete platform. We work as a Lego model, so we have important blocks with our out-of-the-box features that any e-commerce, any project can go live very quickly and it can start to monetize with our digital commerce platform, our user experience management platform. We also have a distributor order management to track all the orders, all the status to the customers, and even to do the omnichannel. And also we have the marketplace management natively, which can enable you to sell in the B2C, to sell in the B2B, to sell in the B2B2C, to sell in any market channel that we can think in the offline or in the online. And also we have what I said about live shopping, personal shopper, conversational commerce. Now we are talking about concierge commerce, which is a new concept, and I'm more than happy to share with you guys. Just send a message to me, and we have the sales app, Pick and Pack, Last Mile, and we connect with all the backend systems of any company, which is very important to avoid what I call it the Frankenstein before, to have the Frankenstein on the cloud, right? So that's why we consider VTEX as this completely connected, composable platform, enabling companies to do business and win the market. And that's why we say we are sharing here 3 investments to drive e-commerce growth. For us, it's very important profitability, what I call growth, a profitable growth, not only a growth, a profitable growth. So we are suggesting companies, our clients, to first focus on their existing customers. How I can get a user to become a buyer, to become a client. And a client is a loyalty customer. So they are buying recurring from our e-commerce platform. We are really seeing very high returns for our clients on this. Second is inventory. Today, inventory is the name of the game. If you don't have visibility of the inventory, you are losing a lot of sales and you are affecting the satisfaction of our customers. Customers are expecting products to be delivered in the next 15 minutes in some countries, right? And depending on the country or the region, and same day at least. So we need to enable this to our e-commerce and to our companies, retailers, to have this feature. And finally, how can I engage with my customers in different ways, right? Customers, they want to be listened, they want to feel like I'm not another customer. So how can we engage more with customers, get feedback, interact with them in real time? So we also, that's Live Shop is one of those kind of platform. And obviously, how can I make the sales and the e-commerce more personalized? So when we talk, for example, about omnichannel, we start to analyze which stage each company they are in the omnichannel part. Some companies, they are not doing anything in the omnichannel. They don't even know. So we call the stage one. Some others, they already centralize inventory and they can distribute this inventory among other channels. There's stage two. Stage three, when you select which channel is better for me, depending on the physical online sales. And finally, I go to stage four and stage five, where I can predict the assortment in my omnichannel volumes. And in those cases, I'm considering companies that they are selling sometimes in the same countries or even multi-country with multi-currency. So it becomes much more complex, but that's the way to win, and companies are being profitable using omnichannel. And finally here, I want to share this model. It's a P&L. I know finance, and sometimes the finances are not the best, but I'm an accountant and and a sales guy, but I need my customers to understand from the revenue, the costs, the profit, the expenses, and to come in the net profit. When we go to the bottom line, we see if the e-commerce or this project is profitable or not. But I want to give very quick tips from the experts and what we've learned in all those years for e-commerce to become profitable. So again, we are moving from a model of CapEx to OpEx. That's very important. Usually we start to buy the system, to buy the codes, and to have those depreciation models. Now investors are asking for lean operations. So we work in this OpEx model through our SaaS platform. So you pay based on usage, your consumption, or what you sell in our platform. This is very good for the business. We become like a part of the business, right? Usually I also say when companies have product and they want to play in those kind of marketplaces, mainly the e-commerce, I say try to have a minimum product gross margin of 65%. Otherwise, it will be very hard when we start to deduct all the costs. So when I go with any startup or any entrepreneur, we start to measure the product or gross margin. So my recommendation is always to be above 65%. When we think about growth, I always say for each dollar that you grow, try to grow your operating margin $1.5. So that's how can I grow in a profitable manner, not only growing revenues, but I increase it my costs by double, so you are not profitable. So this is another important KPI. We have what we call SG&A costs, which are the sales costs with some commissions costs, renting costs. It should be ranging from 8 to 12% of the revenue. And obviously try to expect a minimum net profit of 10%, which is not easy. As you see, the quantity of lines and expenses, 10% is really not easy to achieve, but we can do it if we, for example, use omnichannel as part of this, and we do synergy of the e-commerce with the physical world. So you start to capture a lot of synergy. And finally, think about cross-border marketplace. It's a quick way to extend the catalog, to not have inventory, to think in the mid-long run. And not only, I want to play in those big marketplaces, but I always say, try to have your own e-commerce store. If the customers are buying your product in those big marketplaces, it's okay, but try to migrate them to buy in your own store. So you are going to have customer data from your own customers, right? And data today is the gold. is the petroleum, the crude oil of the future and the present. So it's important to have customer data for our websites. And I want to share finally an important case that we have here in Africa. It's Bashi is part of TFG Group, one of the largest groups. We launched the South African group retailer with 26 brands in various segments from fashion, sport, and apparel, electronics. It was a very important case for us. They were looking for us to innovate their business model. They wanted to unify all the brands to our what I call it the OMS, if you remember before. They want also to launch the marketplace solution, and they were looking for something out of the box because they wanted to go to the market very quickly and obviously localize it for the African market. To comply with all the financial user localization specifications. Then we launched the app of Bash, and the CEO, Luke, was very happy because we needed to work on the promotions module, which was something very important for them. They do a lot of promotions. They have a gift card that should be connected with the Visa card. Then we did all the personalization for the gift card. And finally, they wanted some special login requirements to comply with the African market and have a seamless experience, let's say. So after that, we launched Bash, and I think you might know is one of the most downloaded apps in the region, and those are the results so far that we get. So 47% of orders are paid to the TFG account card, which was very good. 73% increase in multi-brand orders, so they are doing also cross-selling among the brands, and the app searches now represents 35% of the online sales. So there is a huge potential to keep growing. This is just the beginning, following the migration, and the conversion rates exceeds 200% in apps and 80% in desktop, which was very good. And even the page load speed, what we call the speed or the velocity, was very good, increasing by 32%. So basically, that's what I got for you guys to bring here, and I'm more than happy to answer questions here or in other channels. And thanks for the time. Hopefully, you guys can see you and meet you guys tomorrow.
Thank you so much. That was Adriano Silva, who is head of global sales at Vitex. His presentation has given us insights on how to, really understanding the numbers behind success, e-commerce return on investments, demystified. Thank you so much, Adriano. And the next presentation that you're going to have in the next 2 minutes is going to be from Lucky Masilela. Lucky Masilela is the Chief Executive Officer at Registry Africa, and she will be talking to us about empowering Africa's digital future with .Africa. And so please, when the QR code comes to your screen, please scan it and give us feedback. Let us know what you think about what you think about the presentation that we have already had. And after every presentation, we'll be putting up the QR code on your screen. So we have 2 more minutes before we can hear from Lucky Masilela, Chief Executive Officer, Registry Africa, on empowering Africa's digital future with .Africa. Thank you. Let's give our feedback with the QR code that is on your screen. Thank you. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed that short break. We just had the first presentation from Adriano Silva from Vitex. Now we are on to our second presentation in this first day of e-commerce day East Africa, and the presentation is going to be made by Lucky Masilela, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Registry Africa. Lucky will talk to us about empowering Africa's digital future with Dot Africa. So welcome, Lucky, and take the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. May I take this opportunity to greet you all. As I comment, I think we have a very important event, an event that traces the milestones on the evolution of the ways and means in which we transact and move. Important, or rather more important, is how this event couples in with the Africa or the .Africa domain name. So the .Africa domain name has a very significant functions in being the epoxy, or even still the core in the role of Africa to play in improving its Africa's digital future. I think we need to start off, when we talk of this Africa's digital future, we need to start off by looking at Africa, the continent, and looking at its population, particularly the youth. Because as we address this topic, we are in essence looking at the youth first. And one of the things that we can take away as a continent is that our youth on the continent are on the majority. They are rising. We still are a young continent, though unfortunately, we have the challenge of being the highest unemployed in that very same ecosystem. And our youth are getting more exposed to technology, and they are becoming the largest users of internet. And also they are becoming developers and builders of content. Not only do they consume the content, but they are also builders of the content. And this makes it quite easy for us to chart a path for our youth, to ensure that our youth participate in building this continent that we want. And as we build this continent, we know that the future is guaranteed and it is protected. And there is certainty that our youth are going to be the ones that need empowering in order for them to participate in this digital age. And we need to strive to make sure that all citizens of the continent are included in this digital race. So, Africans on the continent, as we talk about the youth, need to be included, wholesome. Not even a single citizen must be left out as we talk about this Africa's digital future with Africa. And we see this future promoting economic growth. We see this future promoting connectivity. We see this future promoting access and services plus your digital literacy. We can also, at the moment, whilst talking about .Africa, the domain name, and its impetus on how the African economy has reinvented itself, or how it has charted a new course on the digital future. The .Africa domain name is very pivotal in the domain name ecosystem. And if we say that, it is also pivotal in the internet ecosystem. These two are connected together. Domain names remain in the epicenter of internet. They are the building blocks of your internet. They are the building blocks of your email address, and they are building block of the website and the URLs that we use. So this is where .Africa plays an important journey in this digital direction that Africa needs to be taking, not singularly, but collectively. I will talk to Africa, but we see ourselves as part of the greater collective. It is worth noting at this point that The African continent has been involved in numerous digital initiatives that Africa, in one way or another, would be central or would be visible. The first initiative that one can identify on the continent would be e-government services. E-government services rely on a domain name for provision of all these services. And we have seen countries all adopt e-government services to better serve their citizens. Some of the examples that these names can be used or have been used would be your waterservices.africa, and you could also have electricity.africa or pothole.africa. All of these are targeting to provide better services to their citizens. The other initiative that we can talk to, again, building around the name .africa, would be digital health. And again, when we look at digital health, we are thinking of platforms that are being built to ensure that citizens have access to health services. And these initiatives include the development of mobile health applications and storing of medical records in a proper and responsible manner. The third initiative that one can talk to on the continent whereby it is empowering the digital future is the agricultural technology. This also provides an opportunity for farmers to gather information around crop rotation, around seasons, the changes, and any other innovations, including trading amongst themselves as farmers. We do see farmers participating extensively in this space when they are properly empowered and enabled to participate in this digital future. The fourth initiative that one would talk to is education and technology. With education and technology, we're able to see our learners advancing in learning or accessing of learning material. And we see the inclusion of e-learning and distant learning, which is now becoming inclusive to all the students who would be in the far rural areas. An important initiative in driving the growth of literacy across the continent. The fifth initiative is that of mobile technology. We have seen the rise or the penetration of mobile technology or the mobile phones, which have now made it easier for digital inclusiveness. It has made it easier for people to do online banking and easy for people to access information, to do research and online, and made it easy for general communication and sharing of knowledge and capturing those dear moments across the entire communities. And the next initiative follows very closely, or the initiative that I've spoken to follows very closely to infrastructure, which now we're looking at broadband infrastructure, which also is key in the penetration and the growth of internet across the entire ecosystem and touching all the other initiatives that one would have spoken to. Cardinal to this is that infrastructure is also enabler, and at the same time, we can measure that as one of the inhibitor to economic and digital participation across the continent, because the scale in which digital and broadband has been growing across the continent has manifested in a huge decline across some of the major countries or your smaller economies across the continent. To realize some of these pieces, the African domain name, which is .africa, has also participated in bringing the countries of the continent together and trying to assist the CCTLDs of the continent to be able to manage their own country code top level domain names. And this has also ensured that not only the managers of the Africa's country code top level domain names are properly placed in the management of the domain names, but they are also properly placed to work towards the harmonization of technologies, the harmonization of policies, which are very instrumental in ensuring the uptake of domain names and using them as a tool for advancing this digital future that we will see. Africa doesn't see itself singularly to achieve this on its own. However, it sees itself in playing a major role with the other CCTLDs across the continent to ensure that this harmonization of policies and technologies can be used to bridge the gaps. Whilst looking at bridging the gaps, we are also looking at how can we be working towards the translation of African content into internet. Only 10% of Africa's content is available on internet. And it is that function of Africa being in the epicenter and being the epoxy to try and push for the translation of African content and to be used on internet. We would like the African story to be told. We would like to see that African music being enjoyed across the globe. At the same time, at looking at the country code top level domain names and looking at the translation of our content, we would like to see the growth and the strengthening of the African managers who are responsible for those top level domain names. The last item here would be the Pan-African ICT agenda. All of these initiatives are initiatives that are central to the Africa and have now been undertaken or spearheaded by the Africa Foundation. The Africa Foundation has since established itself to organize on all of those four cardinal points that I've spoken to ensure that we can realize this digital future around the name Africa, and also ensuring that those initiatives are spreading to the rest of the citizens of the continent and to drive equality and building initiatives of a better and a digitized Africa. As the event is centered around e-commerce on Eco Day in East Africa, one is only compelled to specifically pinpoint where the continent is raking success. And the indicators that one would point out are for e-commerce growth in the economy of Africa. And those e-commerce growth are identified through the payment solutions that have come into place. M-Pesa, we have seen that. Mukuru, we have seen that. There are mobile online payments. This has made a significant improvement on the transactions, accessibility, and security. Also, mobile phones become the single most important tool to access mobile-friendly websites and apps in the provisioning of e-commerce. We have also seen the expansion of the e-commerce market platforms like your Take-A-Lot and your AWS, and these have equally increased their products and services that they are offering on their platforms across the various markets. Another indicator for the uptake of e-commerce would be the improvement in the logistics, where companies are now investing extensively in logistics and the delivery of services, ensuring that the customer experience becomes a superb one. The logistics build-up is quite interesting because one can pinpoint to the smaller market players who are also provided these logistics services and to be able to deliver their food and grocery and all other shipping items that they would want to participate as smaller entrepreneurs in partnering with the bigger logistical chain in the delivery of their food. And this has changed significantly the way families maximize on their time available and spend more time away from the kitchen and allow for their grocery to be delivered at the table. And this has also provided a safety point and security for traveling and equally reducing your carbon footprint. As I close, big business and small can now build on their own e-commerce websites, set up their own e-commerce storefront, and partner with the established bigger players like your AWS, Take a Lot, and all these storefronts can be built around the name .Africa. And we believe that .Africa is ideally placed for the e-commerce space to realize this future that South Africa and the entire continent are looking to achieve on a digital future with .Africa. I thank you all for listening and look forward to a stronger digital future of the continent with the domain name .Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Lucky, for that presentation. I think very, very insightful about Africa. Again, Lucky Masilela, Chief Executive Officer, Registry Africa, who has just been talking to us about empowering Africa's digital future with Africa. Now, we are going to have a short break again, and at 3:25, we're going to have the next presenter. The next presenter is Tajpal Bedi. Tajpal Bedi is the country head of Peak Payments. Tajpal will be talking to us about leveraging emerging payment technologies and partnerships to boost your e-commerce business. So, and I still continue to ask you to give us feedback about the presentations and ask any questions that you may have. On your screen, you're going to have a QR code that you can scan and be able to give us feedback about the presentations that you're hearing. So a time for a short break before we can have the next presenter from Pitch Payments at 3:25 East Africa time. Thank you.
Thank you.
have been enjoying our day one of e-commerce day East Africa, the opening day of the 3-day event. We have already had two presentations, one from Adriano, head of global sales at Vitex, talking about e-commerce return on investments, demystifying return on investments on e-commerce and understanding the numbers behind the success. We also had a second presentation from Lucky Masilela, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Registry Africa, where he was talking about empowering Africa's digital future with .africa domain. And now on to our third presentation of the day. We have Tajpal Bendi, who is the country head for Pitch Payments, who will be talking to us about leveraging emerging payment technologies and partnerships to boost your e-commerce business. Thank you and welcome to the meeting, Tajpal Bendi. Take it over.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Pleasure to be here. And as the topic states, we're going to talk about how Peach Payments can help you boost your e-commerce business and take it to the next level. So, what do we want to do? We want to turn your browsers into buyers, whether it's e-commerce, card machines, payouts, and of course your payment orchestration. So what does Peach Payments do? What sort of solution? Accept payments from users across the globe. We're an enterprise grade. So we have enterprise grade security. We're scalable, reliable, got a global platform. Seamless same page checkouts, no redirects, one checkout, one click checkout, bit of things that you've used in the West. When you go to your Amazon account, how do we bring the same into Kenya, into Africa? Recurrent billings, fraud prevention logic, easy reporting and reconciliation tools, multiple integrations, our level 1 or PCI level 1 DSS certification. We are, making your business secure. What's the current e-commerce landscape? The growth of digital payments. As e-commerce continues to grow across Africa, payment options must change accordingly. Digital and mobile first payment options, expectation for quick, frictionless transactions, and of course, an increase in the need for security. To give one example of one of our partners, which is Sokiba, which is using social commerce, we're working with them on what we can do with WhatsApp, the chatbot options from WhatsApp. So basically, as you converse with a merchant, you're able to purchase, buy, look at their goods on WhatsApp. And we all know a lot of us feel very comfortable there. So this is one of the ways, that your business can scale. Emerging e-commerce payment technologies, mobile wallets, contactless payments. We all know in Kenya how big M-Pesa is. Working with people like PesaLink to see how we can increase some of the coverage. Globally, we're working with Apple Pay, Google Wallet, Samsung Pay. It's fast and convenient. We want to have enhanced security features. In Kenya, mobile money, as we all know it, and majority of our Kenyan population use that for daily livelihoods. How do we increase card payment, alternate payment methods, and of course, social commerce as Shukiba. Payment methods currently used or intend to use in 2024. We've got credit card, debit cards at number 1, EFT at number 2, buy now, pay later, number 3, mobile wallets, QR payments, vouchers at number 5, and rewards at ranking 6. Just give some popular devices used for online shopping. And that's where the presentation ends. Sorry, there's one more I'm trying to get to. So moving on, our strategic partnerships to enhance payment capabilities, collaborating with payment providers, cutting edge payment solutions, customizable and scalable solutions, offer a wider range of payment options, card, M-Pesa, Pesa Link, high level of security for you and your customers. Next steps, actionable steps, audit your current payment infrastructure, identify potential technology partners, start small with pilot programs, implement what works for your business. And I guess if I look at this is really for what e-commerce companies can do, and Peach Payments can help you do what is right for your business, customize them, and really make your business flourish. And of course, post-COVID, a lot of people went online, and people are still grappling to get optimization in their e-commerce businesses. So that's really where we are at Peach Payments. We are an established player in South Africa, in Mauritius, and now starting our operations in Kenya, and of course bringing the multiple products and IP and experience that we have in those markets. Over to any questions if there are.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I don't know whether at the back end there is any question that has been received so far. Media team, any question that we have? None that. Okay, so thank you, Tajpal, for your presentation. Really exciting to see how we can leverage emerging payment technologies and partnerships to boost our e-commerce businesses. Again, that is our third, that's our fourth presentation for the third presentation of the day, day one of e-commerce day East Africa, the opening day of a 3-day event. Today being day one, tomorrow we are having an in-person and also virtual event that we will be, we're going to still have, presentations, panel discussions. So far today we've had about return on investments, how to, we've had a presentation which demystified return on investments on e-commerce by Adriano Silva, head of global sales at Vtex. We've also had about empowering Africa's digital future with .Africa domain, a presentation from Lucky Masilela, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Registry Africa. And we've now just had from Tajpal Benti, country lead Peach Payments, about leveraging emerging payments, payment technologies and partnerships to boost your e-commerce business. One more presentation to go, and we are going to go on a short break again of about 20 minutes. We are going to be back at about 4 p.m. when we are going to have the last presentation for the day about unlocking potential digital tools and unlocking potential, that is digital tools and strategies for SMEs in Kenya and the US. We're going to have it by Elisha Watuti, who is the project manager, Strathmore University Business School. We're going to also have Sarah Bonner, Senior International Trade Policy Specialist at the US Small Business Administration. We're going to also have Maxwell Adieu, the CEO of Kuweza, and Anika Pettiford, founder and CEO at Janelle Beauty. And lastly, we're going to have Wangari Jathi, EDC SBDC advisor from California, EDC SBDC California. So we're going to go for a short break of 20 minutes, and after that we will be back on that last session for the day before we can embark on the both virtual and in-person session for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us today, joining us on the very first day of eCommerce Day East Africa, the second edition of eCommerce Day East Africa, hosted today being the first day. We've already had several presentations. We've had a presentation on return on investments on e-commerce, understanding the numbers behind success, where we had Adriano Silva, head of global sales at Vitex, taking us through that presentation. We've also heard about empowering Africa's digital future with .africa domain through Lucky Masilela, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Registry Africa. We also had a presentation by Peach Payments, Tajpal Bendi, country head, about leveraging emerging payments, payment technologies and partnerships to boost your e-commerce business. And now on to our last presentation for the day. We are going to hear about unlocking potential, digital tools and strategies for SMEs in Kenya and the US. This presentation is the last one for the day. We will have Elisha Batuti, the project manager, Strathmore University Business School. We also will have Sarah Bonner, senior international trade policy specialist, US Small Business Administration. We're going also to have Maxwell Adium, who is the CEO of Kuweza, and Anika Pettiford, founder and CEO of Janelle Beauty. And lastly, we're going to have Wangari Njadhi, who is the SBDC advisor in California. And so I am going to welcome the moderator for the day, Elisha Batuti, to take it over. Thank you, and over to you, Elisha.
Thank you so much, George. I mean, it's always a great pleasure looking forward always to the e-commerce day. I mean, this is our second annual e-commerce day. And when we started, I remember it was one of those things that we felt it's definitely a game changer for Africa, for Kenya, and even for all this and connecting us to the rest of the globe. And there's no other better way doing this in an international manner, where we are bringing you businesses from the US, both North and South America, and together with Africa. So this is all the sort of a la carte you will want to have, and getting to listen to the advices and getting also to share. I mean, our theme, as George helped me introducing, is that we are here to unlock potential. And because if there's anything else that you will be looking out for is what is your potential as a business, and what are some of the things and tips that you can put into practice. So we'll be looking at digital tools, and trust me, just stick up to the end. We have quite a number of tools, and also our panelists will also be sharing some of the tools that they have been using, because we have experts also in the room. And also, what are some of these strategies? I mean, looking at the recent interest that has been there, the long-standing relationship that has been there between Kenya and the US. And it's always a pleasure having Sarah with me also. We come a long way, and we are just here to come and show you the living testimonies of businesses that have been able to trade, and what are some of the strategies that they have used to ensure that their businesses thrive both in the US and here in Africa and Kenya, to be precise. So here today I have a wonderful panel, and have 4 panelists with me, and I will take a quick round, each one of them introducing themselves, so that we can just dive in, because we have so much to share with you, and we can't wait to just start oozing some of the experiences and some of the tips that you can go about. So I'll start from my top right, my screen. I have Miss Anika. Over to you.
Hi, thank you for having me. So my name is Anika Pettiford, and I'm the founder and CEO of Janelle Beauty. Worked extensively with the SDBC, and looking forward to going into the African market.
All right, thank you, Miss Anika. Then we'll go to Wangari.
Good morning from California. My name is Wangari Njadhi, EDC, SBDC, California Business Marketing Advisor. I'm happy to be here to talk about my experience with e-commerce from the 70 clients that I advise with. Nice to see you all.
Wonderful. So there we already have a business and an advisor in the SBDC who has been advising businesses in e-commerce. So we are really looking forward to hear that. And then second but not least, Maxwell.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Maxwell Adiu. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kuweza. We're in the business of enabling trade, how to get product from Africa to the US, and US business wanted to do export to Africa. So that's what we do. I'm here to connect, to contribute, and collaborate. So let's do it.
Wonderful. I mean, that's the motivation and the spirit we want to hear. And please, as we continue, please use the chat. You can just drop questions as we continue with the conversation. Whenever you hear there's a deal, you can actually close, because Maxwell clearly is here to already start doing business. So please feel free to just chat in, and we'll be able to continue. And for any of our panelists who you also see in LinkedIn, please also feel free to connect with them, and you can also continue this conversation. So last but not least, a very good friend of mine, Sarah.
Alicia, it's great to be back with you. It's wonderful to be here at eCommerce Day East Africa. My name is Sarah Bonner. I work for SBA's Office of International Trade, and I answer our hotline. I work on our Trade Tools website, and I'm excited to be highlighting some of the resources from SBA and our partner agencies at Prosper Africa today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So as panelists, as you can see here, we have started all the way from two businesses where we have Anika and Maxwell doing some great work, and they will be sharing quite a bit of what they're doing. And then from myself, I'm also being affiliated with the small business development centers here in Kenya. I also have my colleague there, Wangari, who advises small businesses around the e-commerce. And then we also have an arm of government, but now from the US, who supports the businesses' international trade, and that's with Sarah. So you can already see we already have that whole package, and we are ready to start this off. So I'll start off with Wangari, and my first question, just to take us and get us started, is what are some of these steps that you took to ensure that you scaled your business through, or rather the businesses that you are advising in your centers to scale and get into the global e-commerce?
Thank you, Elisha, for that question. I started with understanding the power of the internet, because as we all know that the internet transverses beyond geographical boundaries. So really the idea is that you can sell your product from any part of the world. You don't need to be in the US, you don't need to be in Kenya or Somali or Israeli or any other part. You can sell literally from anywhere. So the first thing is to also start thinking global as opposed to thinking local, by understanding the online shopping trends and behavior, understanding payment and checkout processes, and also having a really good understanding of the market and market dynamics. What does this really mean? It basically means the industry that you're in, you need to understand what are those trends, what's happening with the customers, with the audience, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And then having the capability, or at least the knowledge of being able to curate a very premium end-to-end online shopping experience. And we've seen this, I can give tons and tons of examples, but I think the one that sticks out really quickly is businesses that have started from really nothing, like Shane from China, and he sells here and has become a really robust online business, even Temu. So the goal is, one, start thinking global as opposed to thinking local, because you're not just selling to the people within your area, you're selling to a global audience. And so long as your product is very well curated and according to your business goal, and you understand the online shopping experience, being able to create using data analytics as well as using web analytics to understand who's the online customer that you're speaking to, because this is a global customer. Again, you're not dealing with someone who's just local. So some of the things that I strongly advise the people that I talk to every day is, one, invest in a very strong digital experience so that you're visible, so that at least you can be seen. People can know what you are and what you're selling. And again, speak to your unique selling proposition for your ideal customer. So having a strong digital experience for a small business means just as simple as having a website that is very well built and it's professional. It's mobile friendly, because we know people shop a lot on online platforms, mostly mobile phone. And I know Kenya, because I'm a Kenyan myself, mobile phone is big, as exponential penetration of the mobile phone. So anybody from a place like Garissa can be able to order something from, for example, from Fashion Nova. I did it myself when I was living in Kenya. So you need to use platforms like maybe Shopify, or just have a really good website that is built on maybe WordPress, and also make sure that it's optimized, search engine optimization. And there's two types, either on-site or off-site. And I don't want to go very technical, but basically simplifying the process for your customers to be able to find you online. Because it's one thing to have a good product, but if you're not findable, if you don't have digital visibility, then it basically means you're not findable and people will not be able to know about you. And then there's, of course, having very strong social media marketing skills, or just being available on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And again, each one of these speaks to different kinds of target audience. But the idea is to be able to tailor content, your content in such a way that it's global, speaking to the global market, at the same time being able to curate your entire experience to a wider target market, meaning like you're casting the net wider, but at the same time being able to jump and customize your messaging, your unique selling proposition, your customers, your entire brand experience. Because as we said, people are shopping online. The numbers have really jumped. From 2019, it was 9.2 billion worth of e-commerce businesses that are happening around the world. And right now we're talking close to 24 billion. So it basically shows you there's a lot of potential and people are trading online. So being on social media, being able to speak about your product, customer testimonials, what's unique about your product, user generated content, and so on and so forth. Then lastly, you need to do search engine optimization, as well as being able to implement strategies that help you to be relevant on the online searches, meaning like the algorithms have to work in your favor. So you have to be speaking the right language to the right person at the right time. And that's just like a really basic level intro of what it is to start a business online. I mean, we can go as technical as possible, but I think that's like the basic level entry.
Thank you. I mean, there's no better way to start us off. As we continue, and I'm already seeing some questions coming in, probably we might get to the technical part of it. So keep there, keep at it, and we might probably definitely be coming back to you, just taking us to the next level, because as an advisor, I know you have so much to share to our audience. So I'll just pick up still on the same question for you, Anika. Being a business, I would just like to hear how did you able to scale through? I mean, this global e-commerce. I mean, you've heard of localization. Wangari told you about Garissa. So let me tell you a bit about Garissa. Garissa is really the northern part of Kenya, and it's one of the places where you find penetration of mobile phone, because in Kenya we have a high mobile penetration. So sometimes it can easily be those places that one will assume that technology has not penetrated, but mobile phone penetration is really in there. And they practice mainly livestock keeping as a main livelihood. So you can imagine someone doing an e-commerce order of even livestock, because you will be surprised. We actually have one of our SBDC's client, you doing e-commerce livestock, selling livestock on e-commerce. So how do you localize this, Anika? And how do you just ensure that someone in Garissa here in Kenya, northern part of Kenya, someone in Ghana, someone in South Africa can be able to ensure that they can relate to you and actually buy your product?
Okay, that's a really great question. And it lends into what I want to talk about specifically. The rise of e-commerce has made market entry a singular focus. And so there's a lot of technical terms, there's a lot of software available, there's a lot of marketplaces. But as from a founder perspective, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the possibilities. But e-commerce has brought it down to a singular focus for a founder, and that is your ideal customer, as Wangari spoke about. Understanding your ideal customer and speaking only to them. The power of one, especially with limited resources as a small business. There's so many areas of expertise that you can get tied down in, and if you forget to focus on that customer, your scalability will be limited. And I know about this from experience myself. When starting my company, realizing quickly that global means right away. When you're an e-commerce business, your customers will come from far and wide that you didn't even market to, but they heard about it through social media or through word of mouth. So you're instantly global. The temptation is to go into every market that people are interested in your product. But what we have learned from our experience is we scaled very quickly, very fast, without preparing for that success. We did not have the operational excellence in order to continue to scale in a way that was satisfying to our customer. So we had a lot of unsatisfied customers that were not getting their products on time, that were not able to fulfill. We ran out of products. And so what that has led us to understand about e-commerce on a global scale is focus on one customer, really fit everything to that persona. And then from there, you will begin to get opportunities to enter into markets. For example, in the northern region of Kenya, we may have never thought of going into that market. Our first global market was Germany, which did not fit what we thought was our profile, our ideal customer. But when we focused on what we were delivering, the product that they needed, people began to speak about it throughout the globe. And you begin to see opportunities where you never saw it before. And so one of the things I want to say in preparing to scale is understand that you're going to have limited resources to open a new distribution pipeline in Kenya, or maybe Nigeria, or maybe Germany, or maybe South Africa. But if you focus on that one ideal customer, they will find ways to get your product. Really, the three things I say to anyone, any founder, before you decide to go global, there's three questions you want to ask of your business. Have you optimized and streamlined your operations in your local market? Now, your local market is where you can ship to without dealing with customs, right? So whether you are in Kenya or in the US, throughout all of Kenya or throughout all of the US is your local market, and not just your city or your state. And so if you have streamlined operations to be optimized there, then begin to look at going cross-border. And once you begin to go cross-border, then you look at, is it the same ideal customer that you're serving in your local market that's abroad? And if so, then how do I localize it to reach that person where they are? And it may be a whole different dynamic in terms of logistics that Maxwell is going to talk about, infrastructure, the last mile. How do I have a satisfied customer that's going to get my product when they expect to get it, in the condition they expect to get it? And that's where e-commerce can make us all famous easily, but to have sustainability and to longevity, you have to have that operational excellence to keep going and keep delivering on that last mile. I think that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you. Even as you speak, focusing and actually knowing your, like a customer kind of profile, so that you just don't find yourself wanting to address all the businesses or customers across the globe. So one of the good things is that toward again the end of the conversation, we'll share with you some tools and links to tools which can actually be able to know your customer profile. Where are they? Are they in Zambia? Are they in Ghana? So we have some tools in store for you. So please stick to the end, and we'll definitely be raising or sharing with you some of these tools with you. And I think, Anika, you mentioned something about infrastructure. Right. And very interesting, because here in Kenya, there has been an initiative where they are trying to get internet to almost become the fourth basic necessity after food, shelter, and clothing. Right now, internet and being connected is becoming almost a necessity. You can almost see how people get uneasy when they're not connected or with their mobile phones. So Maxwell, what can you talk about the models that have been there, and also specifically talking about this infrastructure that Anika hinted that maybe you might have some idea? Please share with us.
Thank you very much for that question. So when we talk about the infrastructure, there are some infrastructure that are within our control. You cannot go and put up internet in a whole community so that everybody can be able to buy your product. So there are infrastructure that are within your control. There are some that are not within your control. when we talk about e-commerce in Africa, you're trying to get your product maybe from the US to Africa or Africa to the US. The key thing you have to look at it, don't forget, e-commerce is just a tool. It's a tool. It's not really the business. So you have to focus on two things that I think is very important, which is how do people receive your product, which is the shipping or the logistics. So the shipping and logistics are two different things. It's not the same. So the logistic is a process of taking and managing of your goods to the consumer. So it involves a process where your product, it involves the management of your product, of your goods from the origin to the consumer. That is the logistics. The shipping is a physical process of transporting the goods from maybe your warehouse, wherever it is, via the sea or via the air. So how do you make sure you have a very streamlined logistic process that help people to access your product? That's a very key infrastructure. Because it doesn't matter what you sell, product or service, people cannot access it. It's basically have no use. So they have to be able to access the product. So how do you go about the logistics process? You need to understand who are your customers first. Where are they? If it's a cross-border trade, how do I go into the shipping? Now we have migrated from logistics to shipping. You're trying to get a product from Kenya to the US, or from the US to Kenya, or anywhere in Africa. That is now shipping, no more logistics. Where are they? How do you find a reliable partner to help you get the product, not just maybe to the consumer, but a retailer? Just to share some ideas with you based on what we do, it's very difficult for a business in Kenya to have an online presence and trying to sell a product to one person in the US or in Ghana. The cost of the product, let's say, is $5. I guarantee you the shipping will be $40. So will anybody go online and buy a product of $5 and pay $60 or $50 to ship it? The answer is no for everyone. So it means that you might have to look at business to business. How do I get a product to a retailer where the local consumer can actually go to the physical store and buy it, or buy online and pick up at a local store? So the business to consumer, when it comes to cross-border trade, I think we're not there yet. And I think it's very difficult for any consumer to buy online. But if it's for business to business, where you sell online, you have an online presence, but there's a local store that carries the product. So if anybody order online, you have a business in Kenya, or you have a retail partner in the US. If they order online, they'll actually pick up from that retail store, or the product is already in the US and they can transport it or ship it to the buyer locally, not from Kenya. So it's a different thing. So the product is already in the US with your retail partner. Once they order, it goes to the consumer. You're not shipping it from Kenya to the US. That's a very key infrastructure that you have to look at. It's extremely important when it comes to what are the very important infrastructure, or what are the key infrastructure that you really need to get your product to either the retailer or to the consumer. Another infrastructure is to understand the market that you are trying to get into. Are you dealing with the consumer or the retailer? Are you trying to sell just a piece of the product, or you're trying to sell in a large quantity? What are the due diligence and compliances that you need to understand when it comes to certain products? Is it food? Is it clothing? Is it head care? They all have different issues when it comes to cross-border trade. So I would say when it comes to e-commerce, a small business, even the large, even the big corporates, they have a very specific target when it comes to the customer, the market they're trying to go into. And they understand the infrastructure that are not within their control, just like we mentioned the internet. But the shipping and the logistics is an infrastructure that is within our control. And I think it's very important to understand how to navigate it before you go into e-commerce, especially when it comes to cross-border trade.
I mean, thank you so much. And I think we are now getting now a little bit deeper, and where you're talking about things around logistics, the shipping. And one thing that has always been a challenge for many businesses has been, how do you de-risk this e-commerce business? How do you ensure that when I'm sending my product from the US to Kenya, vice versa, I am actually guaranteed that this product will actually get there? So maybe I'll go back again to your fellow business person, that's Anika. And maybe, Anika, you might just highlight some few things, and then probably I'll also jump to you also, Wangari, to tell us, I mean, what are some of these tools and technologies, because they also still form part of the infrastructure that will protect the e-commerce between these continents where we operate from. Anika?
Yes. So de-risking is a major part of e-commerce, and one of the reasons why a lot of consumers try not to order from overseas, or not to deal with coming from the US to Africa, or Africa to the US. And so having experience as well with being scammed, even as a B2B transaction that we did as a wholesaling our products to another country. There are many ways that they find to scam you, even using commercial tools like PayPal and DHL, and that have built-in factors to protect you. There are ways that can be found to defraud you. And so one of the things that we did as a company going international is really partnering with the SDBC, with the Exim Bank, where they ensure shipments, and where they offer vetting of potential partners. I really believe if you're going from the US to, say, Kenya specifically, you really want to partner with a business partner that can be your representative in that country, to ensure that you understand operations in that local community in terms of logistics and shipping. And also definitely utilizing the SBA. If you're a US company, I highly recommend working with the US tools that are available to US companies to de-risk shipping. Now, if it's a B2C, direct to customer, then your shipping partner should be the one that have the tools to ensure that shipments arrive on time and in the condition it's expected to arrive. In the US, I know there's robust insurance, there's robust tools to ensure that happens. And I know in Kenya, it's also the case as well. So definitely, as a foreign company going into a different market, you want the backing of your government, you want the backing of the SBA, the Exim Bank, and that's the way I would approach it.
I mean, thank you, Anika. I'm hearing insurance. I heard you dropped SBA tools, and fortunately, we have SBA in this conversation. And Sarah, now to you. I mean, could you give us some of these de-risking tools that you have found? Because I mean, one of a great part of our topic and discussion here today is about the tools. I know we'll share the link later, but I mean, feel free to just share what are some of the top utilized and most important tools that can actually help these businesses to de-risk between the two continents.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to Anika for highlighting some of our key tools. But SBA has a website that's open to anybody. It's sba.gov/trade tools. And so to de-risk e-commerce, you really need to know the rules of how to get your goods around and to insure them when you're able to. And so on our website, we do link to things like the Customs and Border Protection's fact sheet on the elements of e-commerce for importing to the US. What are the rules? We also include information on export markets and where to go for like the e-commerce lab at the Department of Commerce. And as Wangari has already highlighted, we have experts across our small business development centers. I know that in Kenya and other places, there are mentors and business counselors. And I think you really just have to do your due diligence. Like the government doesn't do it for you, right? We provide the tools, and then there's places to go for advice and mentoring. But using the information that's available, like from our resources sheet that's currently showing, whether it's from the International Trade Center, which is an international organization with the UN, or from Prosper Africa, like the tips of where to find information on our Customs Border Protection website, or SBA Trade Tools, or our Small Business Development Centers. All these are places to get help because you need to do your homework. E-commerce is just one form of trade. It's not, again, a business. It's just one way of doing it, but you still have to be trading compliantly to get things to your business partners.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. I know we'll also spend some time towards the end, because I'm seeing we are not doing so badly off in time, and we could probably explore one or two links of those tools, because again, today it's all about looking about these tools and increasing our potential. So Wangari, I know you also have quite a bit of experience around digital marketing and social media. How do you use that to just, or advise your businesses to de-risk the businesses?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. And I'm glad that my colleagues have spoken to the idea of infrastructural problems and logistics and shipping, insurance, trade policies, and so on and so forth. So every day when I'm advising my, the customers that I deal with at EDC, is one of the main challenges that keeps coming up is, how do I know what is the right market to get into? I mean, I have clients, for example, one of my clients is into luxury candles, and she was looking to venture out of the US, go into Dubai and Japan. And to Anika's point, she ended up using strategic partnership and alliances from those parts of the world. So I think it's very important to know, again, going back into the idea of industry dynamics and your network, which kind of industry are you in, who is a key player in the industry, and how do you partner with them, as well as using government resources. But for me, as a digital marketer, I always go back to data analytics. What is the data saying? So I would like to show this. And I would like to, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just a graph from, Statistica. And the reason why I love this graph is because when you come in here, you can find a lot of data that shows you what industry is going where and how, and you can go deep into the report. And I know this report costs money, so not everybody can have access to it. But the reason why I'm big on data is because you can go and look at this data and see which industry is selling what and how, and which is the fastest moving, and where does your business actually lie. And then with these numbers, you just don't stop there. You also go into your website analytics. Again, going into understanding your customer buyer persona. See, who are the people coming to your website, right? First, we started by talking about creating a website. Now we are asking ourselves, who are the people coming? Where are they coming from in terms of geo-targeting? Are they coming from Africa, London, Hong Kong, Garissa, like we said? And then now curate your entire shopping or online experience to that kind of a customer based on what you call segmentation, targeting, and positioning, because you also have to understand the 80-20 rule. Where is the maximum number of customers coming from? And so is that where you put your effort, or that's not where you put your effort? So there's going into your website analytics in form of a tool that I would like to highlight. And then also social media analysis, going into your social and going into your dashboard and looking again, who are the customers who are coming in? Where are they coming in? What are their buyer preferences, tastes, and needs? What are even the customer complaints? Because like Anika said, they were sometimes selling to the wrong people, getting some form of customer complaints. You need to understand that data and convert it into a sale in itself, because if people are complaining about something, it basically means it's an opportunity to sell. So again, to recap, you need to do analytics and customer analytics. You can do this through Google Analytics. Meta has a really good dashboard. I'm not promoting them, but it's a really good dashboard that gives you insights on your audience posts for Facebook and Instagram. If you have Zoho, you can also use that to provide you insights on e-commerce marketing, the inventory management, also have like a form of CRM platform. And again, I know all these tools cost money, but then there's entry level for small businesses, and we can find loans and support from local government. Then also use digital marketing and customer management tools. For example, if you're doing email marketing, maybe using a platform like MailChimp, go and ask yourself, who's receiving these emails? What are they saying? What is the open rate? What is the click-through rate? Are people dropping out? Are people unsubscribing from your mailing list? So is it something to do with your content strategy, how you're sending out the message, how it's being curated, when you're sending it to whom? Use tools like WhatsApp for marketing. I know WhatsApp business is big in Kenya and Africa in general. It's a really good platform to, again, go back into the analytics, use the business API to be able to automate customer interactions, customer messaging, real-time support, and build customer relationships. And I'm so proud as a Kenyan to see that actually sometimes when I reach out to businesses that I interact with on Instagram and I try to probably order something on WhatsApp, they actually have automated and started using the power of WhatsApp. So I really hope people are also going into the dashboard and going into the analytics to see what is the analytics telling us about the data. About our customer data, purchase behavior, purchase preferences, purchase time. When do the sales go up and when do they go down? Because, for example, in the US, we know when people have disposable income, after the tax season, people get a tax refund, and that's when people shop a lot. Right now, we're about to get into the Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays. People will be spending a lot of money. So again, understanding your market and market dynamics from both a local and a global perspective, but using digital tools and technologies to do so, because again, I know this is cliche, but numbers don't lie. Thank you.
I understand why you're a digital marketer. For a minute, I was like, are all these companies paying you to? But again, these are the tools that we are using. So we are not here to do any sorts of promotion, but just giving and sharing some of these tools. So by no chance are we endorsing any product or any tools here. We're just sharing what we utilize and what we see is working. And these are all personal, individual preferences. So, Maxwell, back to you, because, we have had quite a bit from the ladies, and they're acing it in marketing and in localization. Let's go to this thing around which you mentioned earlier when you talk about infrastructure. You talked about shipping, you talked about logistics. I want us to dig in a little bit deeper, and just want to know how does Kweza go around its strategies around just to navigate. And if you also want to talk about de-risking, how you've done insurance, please feel free to mention that. But mainly around logistics and shipping, how have you just navigated those waters?
Yeah, thank you, Elijah, for the question. So let me start from the insurance. So if you are a business in Africa, you're trying to export to the US or anywhere else, first is the kind of product. Are you selling food? If you're selling food, then definitely you might have to insure not just food, you can insure all your product. But when it comes to food, selling food at the retail stores in the US require that you have a product liability insurance, which means if anything happens, the insurance covers you. So that is on the food. When it comes to insurance, you can insure all the products. But for small businesses in Africa, it might be a bit on the high side, because you have to insure the product in the US, not in Kenya or anywhere in Africa. So the cost might be a lot for small businesses to insure the product. But when it's food, there's no way around it. You just have to have an insurance for the food. And it's called product liability insurance. In that case, we know small businesses in Africa, a lot of them cannot afford this insurance. So what we do as a business, as a B2B platform that enables access to market for African small businesses. If you produce honey, for example, so you are in the category of guys that produce honey. So we can insure honey for all the honey producers. If it's soybeans, whatever products that you produce, that is food, dry food. So we do insurance for all of them as a group. So when your product gets to the US, you are covered under Kweza. So you don't need to pay extra insurance. That is on the insurance. If it's other product like clothing, it's not as serious as food product when it comes to insurance. So also let me go back to the logistics. What we do is how to help the businesses in Africa export to the US is to use a hub. What I mean by a hub is a place where businesses, small, micro, medium size, drop off their products for labeling, for packaging, before we push it to the sea and ship it to the US. So individual businesses shipping on their own is very difficult for businesses in Africa. What we use is the hub, where you bring your product based on the quantity you are being approved to bring. Maybe you have to bring 100 boxes or 50 boxes. You have to come with the 50 boxes to the warehouse, where we are, for example, in Kenya or in Ghana, where they will label the product and package the product. Then we take care of the shipping. Don't forget, shipping is another issue which is difficult. So for all the small business in Africa, shipping on their own is extremely, it's a no-go area. They have no chance to actually ship their product to the US. So we take care of all the shipping. How we take care of the shipping is partner with logistic companies that handle the shipping, the clearance, and custom due diligence, everything. And when the product gets to the US, they drive it straight to our warehouse. So don't forget I mentioned something, custom and clearance. So if you're shipping product to the US, you need a broker to clear the product for you. But if you partner with a good logistic company, they take care of everything. So our logistic partner drive the product to our warehouse. They cover everything for us. So if you're a small business trying to export, you might have to find a platform like this to get your product to the US, because it looks impossible for you to be able to do it on your own because of what is involved. So let's say you're a small business in Kenya, you're trying to export to the US. Let's start with food. You don't know no one in the US. Maybe you have friends or family, and you're trying to ship the products. When you ship the product will get to the custom, and somebody has to clear the product. I'm not sure your friends or family will drive to the custom to do the clearance for you, which makes it extremely difficult. And now when the product is cleared, the product has to get to the final destination. Are you sending it to a store? Are you sending it to an individual? So bottom line, you just have to find an existing platform that is working, that you can rely on if you are trying to export to the US. So shipping is when you ship the product via the air or the sea, which we take care, let's say from Ghana or Kenya. The logistic aspect is how you manage the process of getting the product to our warehouse, let's say in Kenya or in Ghana. But the shipping, you don't take care of it in the case if you are working with Quasar. But if you wanted to go that route on your own, what I would advise is you have to have a partner in the US that help you do the clearance, that help you store the product, that will help you with insurance if it's food or any other product. And of course, that will help you get it to the right market. So that would be my addition to that. Elisha, over to you.
Thank you so much. I mean, for a minute, I was almost asking Sarah, is your address open for every person who's listening to this conversation, that they could be shipping to your place, and because maybe your network was span across the whole of the US and you could start channeling. But anyway, that's on a light. So I'll want now to go to you, Sarah, now that I've talked about you. Compliance. I mean, how do you just comply to ensure that this trade, the cross-border trade, businesses in Kenya are compliant, or businesses in Africa are compliant to get into the US, and vice versa? What can you speak into that, especially now that we are working with e-commerce?
Sure. Looking at e-commerce with Africa, I think my panelists have all agreed that you really have to localize, and that means also localize your compliance. So our agency is really domestically focused and focused on selling to global customers and helping small businesses to do that. And then as part of Prosper Africa, we're highlighting the other agency programs that help with the reverse. But for US small businesses, again, we have sba.gov/trade tools, and we have a great section which is on know your laws and regulations. And this helps to get to know the market that you need to know the rules for, because you can't play the game of trade without knowing the rules. You're not going to get your products there. You're going to lose money. You have so many risks. So for compliance, you really have to have a strategy for each market. And our e-commerce lab partners at the Department of Commerce and the U.S. Export Assistance Centers provide counseling that are specific to each market, like through their e-commerce resource guide, country-specific information, digital attaches. There are regulations that you have to follow. For the U.S. Small businesses, they also have to follow export controls, sanctions, restricted parties. This information is all on our website, whether it's the consolidated screening list. They still have to, whether it's small packages or larger, be making sure that they're following the rules. For those importing into the U.S., we also provide that information because small businesses are importing and exporting. So that's all part of our Know Your Laws and Regulations section. But Prosper Africa also provides good information on where to go directly on the Customs and Border Protection's website. And there's places to directly ask questions, whether it's the Customs Administration or our Food and Drug Administration. And all that information is also on Trade Tools. We have overlapping support here and then counselors that people sign up for. But you have to localize your compliance plan and have a written plan is our advice.
Thank you. And just to pick it up, Wangari, how do you tell us a bit of the experience in terms of integrating some of these tools that Sarah is talking about, and that there are any other different tools that you use advising your 70 plus clients around international trade and cross-border trade?
Yeah, so first I'd like to start by saying that besides tools, it's one thing having a high quality product that you're trying to sell, and then it's another to actually convert into a sale online. Because all the clients that I advise, they all have fantastic products, but the capability and the ability to actually sell online is a whole new ball game. And that basically means that I talked about having a good website, but you also have to realize these are small businesses, resource trained, and sometimes even having the most simplistic one-page website is, stressful. So I have asked them or advised them to actually partner with local services like Fiverr or Upwork, where you can find people to create, for example, very simple websites, nothing very complicated, that can help people to have a seamless end-to-end buying process. Simply just being able to select a product, add to cart, and check out, of course, with a really good payment software or program that you're using on your website. So sometimes it's realizing as a business owner that I'm not everything. So when I deal with my clients every day, I can tell you they think that they can do this. And sometimes it's knowing I don't have the capability. I'm not a trained digital marketer. I'm not a software programmer. I'm not a web master. I don't know how to do these things. But does that mean that some of them have not succeeded? No, I actually have clients who have built these tools on their own, almost like going back to YouTube, going back to LinkedIn and learning everything from the basics. I have clients who have built their own websites and they're still selling online. But then there's still the need to understand how to market your products or services online. How do you, again, curate, have a really good content strategy so that you're able to have the push and pull effect? That's what we call it in marketing, using the marketing funnel to be able to appeal or attract your clients, have them consider purchase and eventually check out, which is what we call conversion in marketing. So what I'm saying is, one, if you don't have the capability to use some of these tools, find somebody who can actually do it on your behalf. And in the US, labor is quite expensive, but I do know in Kenya, because I worked in marketing in Kenya, it's quite affordable. You can find somebody to create your website with less than $200. And I'm not promoting anybody, but I do that myself. I outsource sometimes from my friends in Kenya because I still have a very strong network where they can create for you the website and still run your social media. So find these tools. If you're not able to use them, find people who can work with you to do it on your behalf. But the mistake that I see a lot of businesses doing, the ones that I advise, is they also don't know what they want and how they want it. I'll give you a simple example. When you go to somebody's website, you don't know what they're selling. On the landing page, you can't tell, what are you selling? There's too many things happening at the same time. What's the call to action? When I come in there as a customer, what action do you want me to take? And that's why I emphasize work with experts, work with digital marketers, work with webmasters, outsource from Fiverr or Upwork. Again, none of these are paying me, but I do know them as platforms that actually do work. Then roll up your sleeves. If you think you can do it and you have extra time on your hands, why don't you actually go and do it? Like I mentioned, some of my clients, if I show you some of the websites that have been done by people who have never stepped into any digital marketing class, you'll be surprised. They've done really good, fantastic work. Then go and train yourself on how to sell products online. All this information is actually online and it's free. It's on YouTube. You can go to AKA YouTube University and teach yourself, but you have to roll up your sleeve and learn. The other thing is to be consistent. So that's not a tool, but it's discipline. It requires you to be very consistent, to keep going back and understanding the analytics. What is the data saying? What is the data telling me? Who is my competition? Why are they selling more than me? This coffee product that I see selling out than mine in other parts of the world, what is it that they're doing, or what kind of language, marketing lingo that they're using to speak to people? Learning from what exists to go, almost like coming from the unknown to the known. I think that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
I mean, I saw Maxwell very excited when he heard you mentioning about affordable labor. I don't know, Maxwell, do you have some tips to share with us and to the audience around compliance? Because that was the question I also asked Wangari.
Thank you, Elijah. So when it comes to the compliance, I would talk from Africa to the US. What are the things you need to understand? And I will go back to specific product that you're trying to sell or service. So if you are selling a specific product, let's say food to the US, you should understand that you need an FDA, because it's a food and they need to be certified with the FDA. I don't know what is used in Kenya, but I know a lot of vendors that use our platform from Kenya cannot use, they don't have FDA. If I'm wrong, or I think I'm right, because a lot of the businesses who are trying to export through us from Kenya to the US don't know how to go about this FDA. So, and I thought there are other local authority that certify food before they're exported that you need to go through. So you have to look at the product specific. If it's food, you need the FDA before you can export. If it's other products that are not food related, perhaps you don't really need any certification. But what you need to understand, again, it's the custom due diligence and the clearance of the product. So if I am trying to export food apart from the FDA, what other things do I need to know? That is why I mentioned the product liability insurance, which is the food. So if you export food to the US, if anything happens, you can't tell the government, I don't know. Or I produce it in Kenya, I'm not living in America. How does that work? So you need to understand that you need to localize it. And that is where the FDA comes in, because it will be consumed in the market you're trying to sell to. What I would like to give as a takeaway when it comes to the compliance for every listener is you need to understand the market you're trying to sell to. That is the key. If you don't understand the market, you have no chance. So you need to have a proper understanding of the market. What are the consumer behaviors? How does people buy things in that local market? Why should they buy the product? Do they actually need the product in the first place? So sometimes using e-commerce to export, you need to ask those are very important questions. Some products are actually not needed in a certain market. So when we talk about compliance, you're actually far away from that. You don't even need to go into that market in the first place. I will give you guys an example. We have people who in Kenya who produce ugali. Ugali, and they say, I want to export ugali to the US. And our question is, let's look at the number of Kenyans in the US. So which city are they in? How many of them can actually buy the ugali? And I'm sure a lot of Kenyans in the US have cousins or brothers, and they tell you, when you're coming to the US, bring the ugali. So the chance of them buying your ugali is very low. And a guy who's not from Kenya probably doesn't know what is ugali. in the first place. So understanding the market and know how it works is the key when it comes to compliance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think I have some lessons to do here for Anika and Sarah around Ugali. But Sarah, I think you know Ugali, don't you? All right. Yeah. So Anika, I mean, I'm seeing some people asking here in the chat. I think they've seen you taking quite a bit of notes and premeditating, hopefully to answer this heavy question, because I think it's a heavy one. So I hope you're ready for this. And how have you made sustainability, and that is if you have also been able to achieve that in your business, how do you just ensure sustainability in your strategy of doing business? And even before you get to that, I'll let you know that Ugali is like a maize meal, a corn meal, that's almost like a cornbread that you have in the US. Only that for ours, we make it in a pot and or some aluminum kind of bowl and on fire. So you just use water and white flour. And then it's always a good meal to go with some vegetables and some meat. So that's what Maxwell was talking about.
Okay.
So I don't
think
know
that
how
has
he
a
was
market in
planning
the
to-
US, Maxwell. I think there's a big market here for that, especially in the big cities, I'm sure. Seriously, though. We could talk
There you
about
go.
that.
There you go. So if you have any tips to talk about in terms of compliance, please feel free to.
Yeah, I do. Before I get to sustainability, I want to talk a little bit about compliance because, we had to go through that when we went into a foreign market, and one of the most highly regulated markets was Germany. And so we utilize, again, I do not work for the SBDC or the SBA, but they have been amazing. And they helped us through step grants and advising to meet compliance requirements with language and labeling and digital restrictions with the GDPR. So we had to relabel all our products. We had to have language, another language to meet the requirements of that nation in order to import there. And so the same I would expect going into Kenya or going into any African nation, that there are requirements, whether they're labeling, because, in the US, we do pounds, we don't use the metric system. And so there was all that conversion that had to be done. As a small business, that could be prohibitive when you're looking at your cost, your cost of goods sold. You really don't want to raise that too high to make the barrier of entry not feasible and not sustainable. So absolutely utilizing the SBA, the SBDC. One of the greatest resource I have had as a small business when I started was SCORE, working with advisors. And one of the advice they gave me that turned out to be true was small businesses or businesses on a whole don't fail because it's a bad product or there's not a demand for the product. They usually fail because it's a lack of capital, right? In order to scale. And the first 3 years of my business, speaking to Wangari's point about having a good product but having no sales, we had no sales the first 3 years. We knew we had a good product, but it was not moving. So to encourage those small businesses that are based in Kenya and those that are based in the US that are watching, if you in that category, take heart. There is a way. There are tools. And so we learned through really utilizing e-commerce, specifically bootstrapping, which I always advocate for small businesses. Even if you have capital, you want to stretch that capital as far as you can. You want to really harness the power of your story. Your story is what's going to get people coming back to you and building like a loyal following, increasing your customers' lifetime value. All those metrics that Wangari spoke about with digital marketing, the call to action, the customer acquisition costs, all of that can be extended or enhanced if you utilize bootstrapping along with your digital strategy. And I'm very, very big on that because we were one of those companies that did really well being a transactional company. After we had no sales, we figured out all the digital tools that Wangari spoke about. We scaled really, really fast. And then we were all transactional. And then we realized that our acquisition cost has gone up so high In order to keep getting customers, we got to keep paying more. And then it became, okay, there's that inversion point where your demand goes up, but you cannot fulfill that inventory because now your cost has gone up. So there was a way to navigate what the SBA score people told us is why businesses fail, because at that inversion point, you need an infusion of capital to keep going. And if you don't have access to that capital, you're going to fail. We figured out a way to navigate that through bootstrapping. And you spoke about sustainability. And I was speaking it from two fronts. One, being able to have longevity in market. People have great products that people really want. And have you ever had a product that you really like and it became discontinued, or you can no longer find it and you wonder why it was so great? A lot of the times is because your business infrastructure that's driving it could not handle the weight of the success. And so I keep harping on that because that was our experience and we're still working on that. And utilizing the power of story. You've seen great influencers that have major impact. They don't even have to advertise. Their customer acquisition cost is so low because they've invested in their story. And that is something that founders can do that are looking now and say, well, I have this great product, but it's not moving. Go back to the basic of communicating your story. Maybe it's just a one-page lander, but you communicate that really well. You communicate the customer's pain points and how you solved it and the testimonials that go with that, and it converts. Fulfilling that from end to end to the last mile is the most important thing to sustain your brand. You could always add other categories later. You could add other markets later. I believe do one market at a time, be compliant. And from a sustainability point of view, in terms of emissions and clean energy, also CEO and founder of a clean energy company, that is such a major opportunity for African-based companies and US-based companies going into the African market. And what I mean by that is we all want to have impact environmentally and also social impact. If you are going into the Kenyan market and you have a CPG company, a consumer packaged goods company, where it has to be, the supply chain involves raw materials. One of the ways that you can leverage sustainability as a social impact, we know that Africa has the lowest environmental impact, which is great, but you can localize some of your supply chain to include some of those raw materials from Africa, from Kenya, and also impact the local economy in the market you're going into, as well as growing the exports from the US to Africa. So you're meeting the needs of the US needing to have more exports, and you're meeting the needs for the country you're important in to grow their economy through localizing your supply chain, especially if there's a sustainable component to it. So I hope that answers your question.
Totally. And I think you over-delivered, because just looking at sustainability, not just from one angle, both from a financial founder story and also environmental perspective, I mean, that's very critical and fundamental for businesses. I think we're actually coming towards the end. I mean, it's been quite a conversation, and I know the sacrifice that Wangari, Sarah, and most specifically Anika, I think it's pretty early out there for you. I know here in Kenya we are pretty coming to the end of the day, but it will be important just to capture, summarize some of the things that you have talked about for those who may be joining us right now, is that we have talked about how we prepare our businesses to scale, getting into the global e-commerce. We have also talked about some of the models where some of the businesses, and this is where Nika and Maxwell talked about how they were able to model their businesses in order to penetrate, customizing the products and services. Then we got into the interesting parts of the conversation where we talked about the tools, and Sarah also got to mention quite a number of tools together with Wangari, some of the tools that they have been talking about. And then Maxwell came in very strongly speaking about some of this shipping, insurance and logistics. And also we got some insights around that with Anika. And one thing I should also mention at that point is that you find some countries in the import duty, they have additional taxation, such as here in Kenya, we have VAT, that's the vatable tax, where you find it's a certain percentage that is added on top, especially for products that are tracked for that. So that's usually one of the things that one needs to put into consideration when you're doing your costing, so that you don't you give a cost here and someone imports it in Kenya. When it gets here, it's VAT, you have to pay for that, and you have not put it into consideration within your pricing model. And then we got to the point where now we started talking about compliance. And at this juncture, I'll probably also just get to Sarah, maybe because I mean, we had promised you to show you one or two items. So she'll probably show us one item, especially from Kenya, because Maxwell challenged us to just show our FDA version here in Kenya, so that we can see whether we can be able to export ugali to the US. So we will show you maybe a link or two from that resource tool shortly. But finally, we also got to talk about the sustainability, which was a question from the audience that was directed to Anika. I mean, they clearly saw she has some good strategies, and I'm glad she also was able to do that. So after, maybe Sarah, you can show us one, just demonstrate, especially the compliance one. That might be a good one. And then we will also be sharing the slide or that deck that has these links of the tools that you can be able to explore. And then finally, after Sarah does this, we'll just take one quick round just for everyone to just give their last sentiment of what is it that you can actually advise our audience if they would want to scale through e-commerce. Over to you, Sarah. You're on mute, Sarah. Sorry.
Thanks, Elijah. So this is the website that you were referencing from the Kenya Revenue Authority. Programs like this really do help us all to get better educated. Thank you for pointing it out to me. This is the import and export procedures page. There's also filing and paying taxes, importing and exporting. This is Kenyan official resource that small businesses can be using. I know Elisha and I both use the Global Trade Help Desk as well as a unofficial government resource to search through and explore what procedures and tariffs and different rules may exist. And then we go back to official government resources like this. So this is the Kenyan page, and there's lots of ways to go through this one. I'm going to stop sharing and quickly go to the SBA trade tools to be able to just also show what that looks like in just 1 second. Share. So this is the section I was talking about on rules and regulations. Just scrolling down. This is really helpful because it goes into the FDA information that Maxwell was talking about. The sustainability tips that we offer are also under training for international trade. And that's where you also find the Global Trade Help Desk link, which will also be shared during the resource page that has been shown, but will also be dropped into the chat. I hope that helps, Elisha.
Yes, it does. So the beauty is that the first slide you were showing, that's the place where you actually input a product that you will want to either export or import. And then it gives you a list of all the compliance and all the organizations that you should actually get letters of no objection, pay import or pay duties in order to get clearance, in order to be able to have your product cleared for either import or export. So that's one of the information portal that has been is being provided by Kenya Trade Network. In short, they call themselves KenTrade, which aggregates all agencies and institutions that assist or regulate imports and exports. So finally, I'll start from you, Anika, then Wangari, Maxwell, and then Sarah, just to give your last remarks in regards to what tips can you share with this with the audience who maybe might be having small businesses or know people who have small businesses to successfully scale through this e-commerce? Maybe in a minute, and then we can take it round. Over to you, Anika.
Yeah, so my number one tip is focusing on the ideal customer, because e-commerce brings us all so close. We have a lot more in common than we are different. Really understanding your story, what it is you are selling, and how to communicate that through story and not just transactionally. That is a mistake we made in the beginning, being highly transactional. Here's our product, here's what it does, buy it. The customer is used to now through social media. They're used to hearing stories and connecting emotionally with your brand. Don't just have a business, have a brand. Absolutely partner with your local SBA and SBDC if you're a US-based company, and find a similar in Kenya for your business. Absolutely critical to going cross-border.
All right, wonderful. So partner with your SBA or the similar nature organization and your SBDC, and it's all about the brand. I mean, make it and just don't think as your clients as just transactional entities. So very powerful. Wangari.
As a proud Kenyan, I would like to say that I understand the potential of African businesses and Kenyan businesses and the idea of taking advantage of the global digital marketplace. I know of very superior products that can come from Kenya, starting with our coffee, our tea. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I think seeking those very strategic partnerships in markets that have high potential, also understanding the market and market dynamics, understanding your customer ID, like Anika has been saying, to be able to scale up globally and tell your brand story. Again, as a digital marketer, I want to emphasize the power of the internet, leveraging digital tools and technology to create visibility for your product and your brand, to tell the brand story, to create targeted mass awareness for sales and conversion. So go ahead and set up that website. It does not need to be perfect. For a small business, I think the first step is just to start. I think that's what the biggest challenge is. Start with a simple website, then scale up. Take advantage of social media marketing, Google advertising, data analytics, and then scale up slowly. You don't need to be perfect. Anika started saying, they were in business for the first 3 years for them to get what you call historical data, so that they were able to use that historical data to know where are we going wrong and what can we do. And that's how she's able to speak with a lot of confidence, because she has historical data. So just go ahead and start. The world is waiting, and there's a huge digital global marketplace with a lot of potential, 24 billion US dollars. Go for it. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's all about the data. Maxwell, I hope Anika and Wangari haven't said it all, but again, you could always go back to the Ugali story, you know?
Thank you very much. So for me, I'll focus on 3 things for any business listening. Number 1, solve the problem with your product or your service. I call it painkiller. Don't give people vitamin C. Give them a painkiller and make sure you're solving a problem. I mean, you can come up with an e-commerce website and ask people to go online and buy a ketchup or tomato paste. That is not interesting. You're not solving any problem. It seems like a convenience. And if you have an e-commerce in Africa, you're trying to start an e-commerce in Africa, and what you're trying to ask people to buy is a ketchup. You can just walk down the street and buy ketchup. So you're not solving no problem. Solve a problem. That is the number 1. The second thing is have a solution that is easy for people to use. Either product or service is so easy for your customer to use your product. If it's difficult to use, people will not stick around. They will leave because it's difficult. Even though you're solving a problem, you have a good solution to that problem, but it's difficult to use. The last thing is to develop a process that helps you to scale. If 5 people is buying your product or service, how do you make sure 50, 100, 1,000, 1 million people can have access to the same product and buy it? So 3 things. Solve the problem, have a seamless customer experience, and make sure you can scale. That would be what I would give as a giveaway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's always an honor to give Sarah. I mean, please have the honors to wrap this up with all the wisdom and knowledge that you've gathered. You know, there's always beauty coming in last. So you can always pick one or two things from Wangari and Nika and then just put it all into the SBA language and give us your last takeaway.
Thank you, Elisha. I just wanted to say thank you to you for moderating and to our panelists that have really shared excellent advice to all of us, whether we're on the continent, in Kenya, or elsewhere, or in the US. This was a really wonderful exchange. I've learned a lot about localizing as a US business, and then also like looking global as a Kenyan or an African business, like really thinking of in both ways, how can you grow? And for my advice, it's really to do your research and use the free tools that are available to small businesses anywhere. Wangari mentioned there's a lot on YouTube, right? Not to endorse YouTube, but there's a lot online. There's a lot of free things we can all use to avoid mistakes and actually make sure we can scale profitably and really grow those businesses and contribute to our economies. So I just wanted to highlight these resources that have been shared several times and highlight prosperafrica.gov as one of SBA is one of our Prosper Africa partners, and we have our Trade Tools website we hope you'll join and check out, and the Kenyan Revenue Authority website was really helpful. Thank you, Elisha, for highlighting the resources. And there were so many great tools mentioned today, including the ones from the ITC that I know that we all are using. So thank you for your time. And I hope everyone will just go out there and look at e-commerce as one way to grow their businesses.
Thank you so much. So let me take now this opportunity just to extend a great token of appreciation, starting off from Anika, who I think woke up at 3 a.m. just to be here and make sure she's all looking good for and ready for this and share all the beautiful experiences that she has around e-commerce. Thanks again also to Wangari. I mean, just representing Kenya and still working there in the US. I mean, it's a great pleasure together also with Maxwell, and always a great honor to continue with our relationship together with you, Sarah, and the SBA at large. So for me, my name is Elisha Botuti from Strathmore University. I was your moderator today, and it has been a great honor and pleasure to hosting you here today. And that's it from this wonderful, great minds and conquerors of this e-commerce space. And it's a goodbye from us, and a very good evening and a good morning to our people back in the US. And over to you, George, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elisha, and your team. For that engaging session. Then I really want to thank everybody who has been able to join us today. Just to do a recap, today was the day one of eCommerce Day East Africa, the opening day of a 3-day event. Today we had several sessions, all of them were virtual. We started with a presentation from VTEX, where Adriano Silva took us about e-commerce return on investment demystified, where he really emphasized on understanding the numbers behind success. We also had a session about empowering Africa's digital future with .Africa. The presentation from Lucky Masilela, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Registry Africa. We also had another presentation from Tajpal Bendi, country head for Pitch Payments, about leveraging emerging payment technologies and partnerships to boost your e-commerce business. With the last presentation, which is a panel discussion moderated by Elisha Botuti from Strathmore University Business School, was all about unlocking potential digital tools and strategies for SMEs in Kenya and the US. And that is the last session that we were having today. Just to emphasize that tomorrow we have an in-person session, which will also be virtual. virtual. For those who cannot join us in person, we will be at the Emara Ole Sereni Hotel, which will be a day really featuring 10 panels and keynote presentations from leaders of the biggest companies in the market. You will have the chance to engage in insightful discussions, join valuable networking sessions, and witness a thrilling startup competition. Additionally, the event will conclude with the prestigious eCommerce Awards. Expect a day packed with learning, inspiration, and connection with key players in the industry. Looking forward to meeting those who will be in person at Emara Ole Sereni tomorrow. I have been your host, George Bidhi, Communications Manager with Palladium. And with that, we come to an end of our session today. Thank you and goodbye.